Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about who holds the power in Japan. Before I explain who holds the power in Japan, I want to explain the environment of the Japan political system during the 1955 period, 1955 to 1993 period, and its two major parties in the lower house. In 1955, um, there were two-party system in Japan government. Firstly, liberals and Democrats joined forces to create the Liberal Democratic Party, which is LDP. Same year, two socialist parties merged, creating the Japanese Socialist Party, which is JSP. The LDP and JSP were at loggerheads and on core ideological issues that JDP wishes to maintain self-defense forces and revise the 1947 Constitution, particularly Act 9, which limited Japan's military power, and supported close security cooperation with US. The JSP opposed an alliance with the US and wishes to preserve the peace constitution. In 1958, the LDP and JSP won 97% seats in the lower house. The LDP won 287 seats and the JSP won 166 seats. Therefore, JSP was the opposition in the lower house. But the two parties system broke as JSP was involved in an ideological split and a breakaway party emerged in 1960. Democratic Socialist Party DSP was splitted out from the JSP. LDP has been the party which maintained the rule in the government and JSP has been the opposition until the rise of the small parties. In 1958, the JSP won 166 seats in the lower house, but due to its ideological struggles in the party, its lack of candidates to win a majority of the lower house, which means it cannot rule the government single-handedly, and its failure in allying with other oppositions, like other smaller parties, to challenge the dominance of LDP. Eventually, it led to the domination of the LDP. When JSP is struggling with its own issue, LDP was strengthening its predominant status. As JSP became weaker and in contrast LDP became bigger and stronger, it led the end of the two-party system to one and a half-party system. In regards to the political system in those years, Gerald Curti, the logic of Japanese politics, argued that the LDP status was perpetuating dominance and allowed the LDP to act in disregard of opposition party views. Now, I want to explain the reasons of LDP's strength, like how its power come from and why it was so dominating in the Japanese government during 1955 to 1993. The LDP dominance is the result of its success of governance. In the early year period, it efficiently served its special long-term clients, such as small business and farmer. LDP owned a high political participation in the rural sector. In that period of time, voter turnout in rural areas has been consistently higher than in urban areas, provided the support of LDP's election. In return, farmers received preferential treatment in the budgetary system. This gave and take relationship has supported the LDP's dominance in the lower house. In the later period, adjusting its policies timely according to the change of Japan's socio-economic environment. For example, LDP shifted the target of its concerns by reducing favors to the special interest groups and provides goods to a broader range. Also, its gerrymander made LDP rural-oriented. LDP members from rural area had a greater chance to electoral victory and rise up the LDP hierarchy. In fact, most of the prime ministers are from the rural electorate. During 1955 to 1993, LDP's share of the lower house seats in urban area was between 30 to 60%, and in rural area it was consistently between 68 to 86%. In 1972 election, 4.99 votes in an urban area was equivalent to 1 vote in rural area. The constitutional authority of the Prime Minister to dissolve the lower house, which means the Prime Minister has the ability to choose the time for election. Due to the 1955 period to 1993 period, all the Prime Minister was from LDP, which means LDP had the power to choose the election time. It gave LDP the advantage to timely provide rewards to its constituents to maximize election result. Okay. Although Japan was dominated by the LDP, it was hard to simply say LDP as the power holder in Japan. This is because LDP was not formed for ideological reasons. In fact, it was formed by combining several conservative parties, and they are divided to different factions in LDP. Each faction has their own faction leader, and each of the faction's goal is to make their leader prime minister. As the Japan government was one and a half party system, LDP did not receive too much pressure from the oppositions. Hence, the competition of the LDP candidates was fiercer than the lower house competition election. The major faction has ability to support its candidates in giving them advantage in their election, hence to protect its status in the LDP. Support including visit from well-known senior politicians, financial assistance, and tips for the campaign. There are no dominated faction in LDP. Prime Minister was rotated among the 5 major factions during 1955 to 1993. Factions had to cooperate and form coalition to challenge other inter-party coalition. And the faction leader who successfully formed a coalition of a majority of the LDP member won the LDP presidential race and became prime minister. The faction competition led to create friction, and the friction caused political rivalries, policy confrontation, and unequal allocations of power. Hence, faction competition resulting a frequent resignation of prime minister. During 1955 to 1993, prime minister served on average 2.5 years due to the pressure of the LDP factional leaders waiting in line for election to office. Now you can see the LDP was like a smaller lower house, and the conservation parties merged together because they did not want the other party than them to hold the power in Japan. for their own interest. But anyway, we can also see the biggest party, biggest LDP faction or intro coalition holds the power of Japan, and the power holder is always switching due to its competition. When everyone believed LDP continued to dominate the government, LDP lost its majority in 1993, the general election. In the following years, LDP has been struggling fighting with other parties. There were an important point to note. In 2005 general election, LDP won the majority in the lower house, and Abe Shinzo was the prime minister from LDP in 2006. Then LDP again lose its majority in the following years. Eventually, in 2012, LDP returned to power and won a clear majority in the lower house general election, and Abe Shinzo as prime minister. And in the following elections, LDP has been winning the majority in the lower house, and Abe has been the prime minister until today. It might mean LDP or Abe has been the power holder in Japan, but there is a potential player who can easily change the current circumstance. That is the Japanese people. If one day the government cannot fulfill its role in serving its people, the government can fall down anytime and people will form a new government in replacing it. Thank you.